Right now, they're not thinking about you, and that stings, doesn't it? The silence, the distance, it's as if you never even existed in their world. You check your phone, hoping for a message that never comes. You wonder if they ever stop to think about you the way you think about them. The worst part, they seem perfectly fine without you, as if losing you was nothing. That feeling of being invisible, of being erased from their life, is enough to drive anyone mad. But what if I told you that could change? The very thing making you feel powerless right now is actually the key to flipping the script. Because here's the truth, chasing them won't bring them back. Begging for their attention won't make them see your worth. What gets under their skin, what makes them question everything, is when you become something they can't ignore. You don't just want to be missed. You want to be unforgettable, a presence so strong that even in your absence, you remain on their mind, a shadow they can't shake, a feeling they can't escape. That's how you become their sweetest nightmare. The one they can't stop thinking about, the one that lingers in their thoughts when they least expect it. The hardest thing to kill is a memory. Think about it. What haunts people the most? Not noise, not chaos, but silence. The kind of silence that forces them to think, to reflect, to wonder why you're not there anymore, to question why you're no longer reaching out. That's when doubt starts creeping in. And that's when they start missing you. It's like a song stuck in their head, playing on repeat even when they don't want to hear it. That's the power of a well-played absence, not the kind that's weak, not the kind that's hoping for a reaction, but the kind that makes them sit up at night and ask themselves, did I make a mistake? And a lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep. Right now, they think they have you figured out. They assume you're waiting, they assume you're hurting. And maybe you are, but they don't need to know that. Because the moment you pull away, with confidence, with silence, with power, the game shifts. Suddenly, the person who walked away isn't so sure anymore. They start checking their phone, replaying old conversations, wondering if you ever think about them. Just like that, the dynamic flips. You go from the one waiting to the one being waited on. Now, here's the real question. Do you have the discipline to stay silent long enough for them to feel your absence? Can you resist the urge to reach out, to prove yourself, to break the silence first? Because that's the test. That's where most people fail. If you want to know how to master this, how to make them feel your absence so deeply that they start craving you like air, then keep watching. Because by the end of this, you won't just know how to turn the tables. You'll know how to make them regret ever thinking they could replace you. And before we dive in, take control of your story right now. Drop a comment below with the words, I am worthy. Let it be a declaration, a reminder to yourself and to the world that you don't need validation. You are the prize. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a strategy that puts you back in control. Now let's get into it. 1. The one they can't tame, the one they can't forget. A person with no direction is easily forgotten. If your entire world revolves around them, they won't admire you. They'll grow tired of you. Attraction fades when there's nothing deeper behind. People don't crave someone who worships them. They crave someone who challenges them, the one who sparks something inside them, the one who keeps them awake at night questioning their own feelings, wondering why they can't quite figure you out. Think about the ones who linger in someone's mind long after they've left the room. It's never the ones who chase, never the ones who text too much, who over-explain, who beg for attention. No, it's the ones who are scarce, not because they're playing games, but because they have something greater to focus on. A mission, a vision, a fire that burns too brightly to be dimmed by momentary distractions. Imagine a river that bends and twists, carving its own path through stone. It doesn't stop for obstacles, it doesn't wait for approval, it moves, unstoppable, undeniable. That's what a person with purpose is like. They flow forward, shaping their world instead of being shaped by it. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, said Marcus Aurelius. A mind ruled by purpose is a mind that leaves an imprint, a presence so strong it doesn't need to announce itself. People don't remember the ones who need them. They remember the ones who don't. Stoicism teaches that a person should be ruled by their principles, not their impulses. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations to impress anyone. He wrote it to discipline his mind, to keep himself sharp in a chaotic world. That's the kind of presence that lingers, the kind that commands attention without ever demanding it. This is the essence of becoming their sweetest nightmare, not someone who fades into the background, not someone they can fully possess, but someone they can't seem to shake off no matter how hard they try. Now, maybe you're wondering, does this mean ignoring them completely? No, it means shifting the focus. It means understanding what truly makes someone unforgettable. People don't obsess over what's easy to have. They crave what feels just out of reach. The mind resists what it cannot control. The moment someone senses that your attention is a privilege, not a guarantee, their instinct is to chase it. Think about the rarest books, the most exclusive clubs, the opportunities that not everyone gets. Their value isn't in what they give freely, it's in what they withhold. The same principle applies to attraction. The moment someone realizes they don't own your focus, they will start craving it. They will replay your conversations, analyze your silences, try to decode what makes you different. Because in a world full of people trying too hard, the one who doesn't try at all is the one who stands out the most. This is where most fail. They break, they panic, they give too much too soon. They fear that if they don't prove their worth, they'll be forgotten. But it's the opposite. The ones who prove nothing are the ones who are remembered. A person of purpose is like a locked door with no key. The harder someone tries to figure them out, the deeper they fall into the mystery. The more they sense there's a world beyond them, the more they want to be a part of it. And here's the twist. When they realize they aren't your top priority, they suddenly want to be, not because you asked them to, not because you chased them, but because you created a space they wanted to be in, a presence so rare that walking away from it feels like a loss. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to prove anything. You need to move in silence, build something real, and let them wonder why they can't seem to let you go. That's how you become the one they can't tame, the one they can't forget, the one who lingers long after you're gone. 2. Not just present, but impossible to ignore. Most people show up, but they're not really there. They nod, they smile, they go through the motions, but their mind is somewhere else, lost in distractions, scrolling their phones, trapped in their own thoughts. They exist in the same space as others, yet they leave no impact. And that's exactly why they're forgotten. But then there's the rare kind, the ones who don't just exist in the moment, they own it. They lock in, they listen, they engage with an intensity that makes time slow down. When they speak, every word feels intentional. When they look at someone, it's not a passing glance, it's a moment that lingers. That's the kind of presence that stays in the mind long after they're gone. Not because they begged for attention, not because they tried too hard, but because their energy was undeniable. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's the difference between the ones who stand out and the ones who fade away. Most people live in their heads, overthinking, doubting, hesitating. hesitating. They worry about what to say next, if they're making the right impression, if they should text first or wait. They're so busy second-guessing themselves that they miss what's happening right in front of them. But the ones who understand presence, they don't hesitate, they don't overanalyze. They don't exist in a fog of doubt, they just are. And because of that, they create moments that can't be ignored. Imagine sitting across from someone who isn't distracted, who isn't half listening, who isn't checking notifications every 2 minutes. Imagine someone who looks at you like you're the only person in the world. Someone who listens not to reply, not to impress, but to understand. That's how you separate yourself from the crowd. That's how you become impossible to forget. Most people think making an impression is about doing more, saying the right things, acting a certain way. But the truth, it's not about doing more. It's about being more engaged, more aware, more present in a way that most people are not. Because here's what happens when you master this. When you give your full attention, when you lock in with focus, when you make someone feel seen in a way they rarely do, that moment sticks with them. And the second you're gone, they feel it. That absence stings in a way they didn't expect. They replay your words. They wonder when they'll hear from you again. They question why your energy still lingers when you're nowhere to be found. That's how you become their sweetest nightmare. Not by chasing, not by proving anything, but by giving them something different, something rare, something they never even knew they craved until it was no longer there. Stoicism teaches the power of control over emotions, control over impulses, control over the energy you give. Most people scatter their attention, stretching themselves thin, always available, always eager, always trying. But the ones who stand out don't chase, they attract. They give fully when they're present, but they don't overgive. They're not in a rush to impress, to fill every silence, to win someone over. Instead, they let the silence breathe. They let the space be felt. And when they're gone, they let that absence speak louder than any words ever could. Think about it. What do people desire the most? It's never the thing handed to them easily. It's the thing they have to wonder about. The thing that isn't always within reach. The thing that has presence even in its absence. That's how you turn into a thought they can't shake, a presence that lingers, a dream that turns into a haunting desire. You don't chase, you haunt. 3. The mystery that keeps them hooked. Predictability is the fastest way to become invisible. The moment someone thinks they have you figured out, the moment they can predict every move you'll make, the intrigue fades. And without intrigue, you become just another face in the crowd. Think about the people who have captivated you the most. Was it the ones who laid all their cards on the table from day one? The ones who were completely transparent, predictable, and easy to read? Or was it the ones with depth? The ones whose minds felt like a labyrinth, complicated, intriguing, always pulling you deeper. That's the energy you need to embody, not by playing games, not by being distant for the sake of it, but by being someone they can't quite put in a box, someone with layers, someone who keeps their minds spinning long after you're gone. Imagine walking through a dream, sometimes comforting, sometimes mysterious, always unforgettable. That's the kind of presence that lingers, not by trying to be someone you're not, but by being everything you are. Steadfast yet unpredictable, composed yet passionate, present yet untouchable. Most people make the same mistake. They either give too much too soon, smothering with attention, making sure the other person never has to wonder about a thing, or they pull away completely, thinking distance alone will make them more desirable. But neither of these creates a lasting impact. The real power is in the balance. It's in knowing when to be fully engaged and when to let absence do the work. One moment, you're locked in, making them laugh, making them feel seen like no one else exists. The next, you're deep in your own world, focused, absorbed, chasing your purpose. And suddenly they're wondering, what's on their mind? What are they thinking about? Why haven't they reached out? That's when the shift happens. The quiet moments when they start thinking about you more than they expected to. The pauses between conversations when they catch themselves craving your presence without knowing why. Because now, you're not just another person, you're a mystery. And once someone starts chasing answers about you, they're already hooked. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, said Albert Einstein. The mind resists what it cannot fully grasp. The moment someone feels like they completely understand you, they stop needing to. But when there's something just out of reach, something that keeps them wondering, something that makes them question what's beneath the surface, that's when they become drawn in. You don't need to be cold. You don't need to disappear. You just need to be multi-dimensional. One evening, your energy is undeniable. Your eyes locked, your words sharp, your presence so powerful, they can feel it in their bones. The next, you're in your own world, lost in thought, passionate about something bigger than fleeting moments, available but never predictable. And that's what keeps them coming back. Not because you're playing hard to get, not because you're trying to manipulate emotions, but because you are truly someone worth thinking about. They will replay conversations, analyze silences, try to decode what makes you different. And without realizing it, they'll find themselves caught in the pull of something rare, something they don't want to let go of. You don't have to force yourself into someone's thoughts. You just have to make sure you belong there. 4. Confidence without arrogance. A fragile ego can topple even the strongest facade. The moment someone else's opinions dictate your emotions, you've already surrendered your power. True confidence isn't about being loud, demanding attention, or seeking validation at every turn. It's the quiet, unshakable belief in who you are, regardless of who's watching or what they think. That kind of certainty doesn't just fade into the background. It lingers long after you've stepped away. Picture walking into a room where every person is caught in an endless loop of trying to impress. So it's creep. They talk loudly, flaunt accomplishments, and fish for compliments, hoping to be seen. Now imagine someone who enters that same space without saying a word, yet somehow commands it. There's no desperation in their eyes, no frantic push to be noticed. They simply are. And in that being, they shine brighter than any forced performance ever could. Why does this kind of presence have such impact? Because most people are used to extremes. They encounter individuals who either chase approval too hard, always bending, always changing, always nervous about what others think, or those who collapse the second they sense any hint of rejection. Both extremes revolve around insecurity, and insecurity is neither attractive nor enduring. When you see someone unaffected by other people's praise or criticism, it feels like a rare gem. It's the steady ground in a world of shaky footing. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled one of the greatest empires in history, consistently reminded himself that outside opinions were meaningless. Even in his position, he recognized that the crowd's cheers or jeers had no real impact on his worth. It was his own actions and principles that mattered. In the same way, a person who embodies quiet confidence does not place their self-esteem in the hands of anyone else. They do not need others to validate their value, nor do they crumble when someone disapproves. They remain resolute, like a mountain standing tall through storms and seasons. Some might wonder, Doesn't this come across as arrogance or indifference? It can if someone confuses self-importance with true self-worth. Arrogance is loud, needy, and demands recognition. Real confidence, on the other hand, is as calm as a still lake, unaffected by the ripples on the surface. Yes, it may unsettle those who are used to people bending over backward for approval, but that disquiet can spark fascination. People start asking themselves why this person isn't reacting, why they aren't begging for acceptance, why they're not consumed by others' opinions. In that moment of wonder, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly, the one who is expected to grovel or boast stands firm in quiet conviction. It's reminiscent of a candle that stays lit in a gust of wind, while others flicker and fade. That steady flame draws attention precisely because it doesn't waver. Those around it begin to realize there's something unique happening, something that can't be easily controlled or influenced. The question often arises, if you don't chase, if you don't prove yourself, won't you be overlooked? In reality, the exact opposite tends to happen. When it's clear you're not desperate for external applause, you become more intriguing. You show that your sense of worth isn't fragile, that it won't crumble at the first sign of indifference. And in a world where so many measure their value by likes, follows, or flattering remarks, that self-contained confidence feels like a sudden shift in the atmosphere. Consider a towering tree in a forest. It doesn't grow tall to impress the other trees. It grows because that's its nature. It finds its nutrients, stands its ground, and reaches for the sun. People passing by often stop to marvel at its height, its strength, its quiet majesty. They notice the tree precisely because it isn't trying to be noticed. It's simply fulfilling its purpose. This same principle applies to human connections. When someone senses that you can't be swayed by fleeting opinions or shallow judgments, it's both intriguing and unsettling. They may test you, push buttons, or try to get a reaction. But if you remain composed, if your mood and sense of self do not hinge on external validation, you set yourself apart in a profound way. Instead of reacting to every shift in someone else's behavior, you remain aligned with your own path. This steadiness becomes almost magnetic, drawing curiosity and admiration. People may pretend they're unaffected, yet they'll find themselves circling back to that calm certainty. Why? Because they're not used to it. It breaks the routine of back and forth validation, of constantly guessing how to please or impress. Faced with someone who doesn't hand over their self-worth for evaluation, they start to question their own assumptions. And in that questioning, you become a presence they can't simply dismiss. Confidence is silent. Insecurities are loud. There's a saying that captures this concept perfectly. True confidence doesn't need to declare itself at full volume. It speaks through body language, through the way you carry yourself, through your steady gaze and composed reaction. And once people realize you're not looking for their stamp of approval, they may feel a blend of intrigue and unease because they can't control what they don't fully understand. That's the essence of quiet might. It's not about proving you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing deep down that your worth is not on trial. You don't bend to every shift in the wind, nor do you need to overshadow anyone to feel significant. You stand like that mountain, like that candle, like that tall tree in the forest, rooted in your own truth. And when you do, your presence becomes unforgettable, whether someone is looking for you or trying in vain to forget you. 5. Move like a king, not a beggar. Hesitation is the death of attraction. The moment you pause, looking for permission, seeking approval, waiting for validation, you shrink in their eyes. Strength isn't about asking, it's about deciding. It's about moving without needing a green light from anyone. Think about it. Does a king ask for permission to rule his own kingdom? Does a warrior stop mid-battle to make sure his enemy approves of his next move? No, because power isn't given, it's taken. Respect isn't requested, it's commanded. And the second you hesitate, you stop being a force and start becoming just another option. Most people don't realize this, but attraction has little to do with looks, money, or even charm. It has everything to do with presence. The way you carry yourself, the way you make decisions, the way you move through life with certainty. That's what sets you apart from those who are always second-guessing themselves, always seeking approval, always waiting for someone else to tell them what to do. The mind is wired to follow strength. People are drawn to those who know their own worth and act accordingly, not the ones who beg for attention, not the ones who over-explain or apologize for existing, but the ones who simply are, the ones who move through the world as if they already belong. And that's where most people fail. The moment they sense someone pulling away, they panic. They overcompensate. They start asking instead of leading. But hesitation kills attraction, not because people want arrogance, but because they want certainty. They want to feel like they're stepping into the orbit of someone who knows exactly who they are and where they're going. Seneca once said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." The same applies to those who constantly seek approval. They belong to everyone. And because of that, they belong to no one. A person who needs permission to move, to act, to decide is weak, and weakness is forgettable. But someone who moves with confidence, who trusts their own direction, who does not waver in their decisions, that's the kind of presence that lingers. At first, they may not notice. They may think they made the right decision by keeping their distance. But then the silence creeps in. They see others bending, chasing, trying too hard to impress them. And suddenly they realize you never did. And that's when the thought of you starts to haunt them. They expected you to wait, to prove yourself, to fight for their validation, but you didn't. Instead, you just kept moving, kept growing, kept living. You never needed their approval, and that realization unsettles them more than anything. Because now, instead of you wondering what could have been, instead of you analyzing every move, they are the ones left questioning. What if they had followed through? What if they had chosen differently? What if they had realized your worth before it was too late? That's the power of leading without asking. You don't convince, you don't persuade, you don't wait. You decide and the world either follows or gets left behind. 6. Beyond expectations, beyond forgetting. Attraction is never just about the physical. It's deeper than that. Intellectual, emotional, even spiritual. If all you offer is surface-level charm, you'll be forgotten as soon as you walk away. But if you become something they can't quite define, something that lingers in their thoughts when they least expect it, you won't just be remembered. You'll be impossible to ignore. People don't crave what's ordinary. They don't obsess over what fits neatly into their expectations. The mind fixates on what disrupts the pattern, on what stands out. Most have encountered the same routine. The ones who flatter, the ones who play it safe, the ones who follow a script they think will impress. But when someone breaks that pattern, when they carry themselves with quiet conviction, when their words carry weight instead of just filling space, that's when they leave an imprint that doesn't fade. The Stoics understood this well. A sharp, disciplined mind commands attention. A person who knows who they are, who controls their emotions instead of being ruled by them, becomes something rare, not just enjoyable to be around, but felt. Their presence carries weight, a kind of energy that can't be easily explained. But it's there, Undeniable, impossible to ignore. Imagine this. They're lying in bed, scrolling through their phone, lost in the noise of the world. And then, out of nowhere, a thought of you surfaces. Not because you texted, not because they saw your name pop up, but because of something you said, the way you looked at them. Calm, unwavering, completely present. The way you moved, the way you carried yourself, like someone who doesn't just exist but demands space in the world. That thought lingers. It gets under their skin. It makes them wonder. And that's how you become their sweetest nightmare. You don't beg for attention, yet you have it. You don't chase, yet they feel drawn to you. You are both the history and the answer, the presence that stays even in your absence. Plato once said, "A wise man speaks because he has something to say. A fool speaks because he has to say something." That's the difference. Most people talk, but their words are empty. They move, but their actions are forgettable. But when someone speaks with depth, when they move with purpose, when they master themselves to a level that sets them apart, the ordinary fades in comparison. This is what sets legends apart from the forgettable. This is why some faces blur into the past while others remain sharp, vivid, unforgettable. If you embody this, if you live with intention, if you sharpen your mind, if you hold yourself with quiet authority, you don't just become another passing moment. You become the one they can't stop thinking about. 7. Lightning and silence. A flat emotional experience fades like background noise. Too much comfort breeds complacency. Too much chaos becomes exhausting. But the perfect balance leaves an imprint. Think about the forces that command attention. The crack of thunder, the calm before it, the stillness after, the unpredictable rhythm of something powerful, something alive. People don't crave monotony, they don't obsess over what's predictable. They are drawn to intensity, to movement, to fire. But fire alone burns out. The real impact comes when it's paired with control. Imagine this, they meet you and at first you're a storm. Your presence is undeniable. Your ambition electrifies the air. Your words carry weight. When they're around you, they feel something. Something that speeds up their pulse, keeps them guessing, makes them wonder what's next. It's the kind of energy that awakens people. The kind that can't be ignored. But just when they think they have a grasp on you, just when they expect more, you shift. You become the calm, unshaken, still present, yet untouchable. The very thing they thought they had figured out suddenly becomes a mystery again. That contrast, that's what lingers. The space between fire and stillness creates an emotional pull. They can't escape. They don't just remember you. They feel you long after you're gone. Seneca once said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." That is the essence of attraction, not just intensity, but mastery over it. Not just passion, but knowing when to hold back. Anyone can burn bright for a moment, but the ones who know when to ignite and when to retreat, those are the ones who become unforgettable. Because too much comfort, and you become predictable. Too much fire, and you become overwhelming. But if you master both, you become the sweet nightmare they can't escape. They will think of you in quiet moments, remembering the way your presence shook something inside them and then just as quickly left them wanting more. You're not just a memory. You're a paradox they can't solve. 8. Echoes that don't fade. Some people leave and the world moves on without a second thought. Others step away and their absence is felt like a missing heartbeat, an unshakable void that lingers long after they're gone. The difference, presence, not just being seen, but being felt. You don't want to be another fleeting moment, another forgettable encounter that disappears into the blur of everyday life. You want to be the thought that lingers, the one that surfaces in quiet moments, the one that interrupts their routine, slipping into their mind uninvited, not just because of what you said, but because of what you made them feel. Your presence carries weight. Your absence isn't just a gap, it's a void. They check their phone, scrolling through old messages. Without realizing it, they catch themselves thinking about you at random times, wondering what you're doing if you're thinking about them too. That's when you know you're no longer just a memory, you've become a presence even in your absence. Most people try too hard. They smother with messages, constantly check in, afraid that if they don't stay visible, they'll be forgotten. But the truth is, nothing makes someone crave your presence more than experiencing your absence the right way. When you've given them something rare, an energy, a depth, a confidence that isn't easily found. Your silence isn't just noticed, it's felt. Ones who understand this don't beg for attention. They don't force their way into someone's thoughts. They simply move with such certainty, such quiet intensity, that even when they're not there, they still are. Think about what makes a nightmare unforgettable. It's not just the fear, it's the way it lingers. It stays in the subconscious, refuses to fade, refuses to be ignored. That's the effect you want to have, not in a way that's dark or harmful, but in a way that awakens something intense, something that makes them realize no one else makes them feel quite like you do. When you're there, you bring depth, excitement, and energy that turns ordinary moments into something more. And when you're gone, it isn't just noticed, it's missed. Most people are easily replaced, forgotten the moment they walk away. But you leave and they remember. Because you're not just another passing moment, you're the one they can't forget. 9. The shadow that stays just out of reach. Most people make the mistake of giving too much too soon. They over-explain, over-text, over-invest, thinking that pouring out every thought and emotion will bring them closer. But the opposite happens. The more predictable they become, the less intriguing they are. Attraction thrives in the unknown, in the tension between certainty and mystery. Take that away, and you take away the very thing that makes someone crave your presence. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They mastered restraint, not just in action, but in emotion. They didn't beg for approval. They didn't fear rejection. They didn't let the opinions of others dictate their sense of self. And because of that, they became unforgettable. There's a reason why the most powerful figures in history didn't waste time proving themselves to anyone. They simply were. And that quiet confidence was more compelling than any performance could ever be. Think about the last time you watched a movie that ended on a cliffhanger. The kind that left you with unanswered questions, forcing you to replay the possibilities over and over in your mind. That's how the human brain works. It craves resolution. And when it doesn't get it, it fixates. This is exactly how attraction works. When you leave certain things unsaid, when you exit a moment before it fully concludes, you don't just disappear, you linger. You become the unfinished story that demands to be revisited. Suddenly, thoughts begin to surface. Why haven't they texted back yet? What are they thinking? Do they even care? Before they even realize it, they're thinking about you more than they expected to. That's the power of restraint. It's not about games. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding the psychology of desire. The more effort someone has to put into figuring you out, the deeper they get pulled in. The ones who are always available, always eager, always pouring out their emotions may seem appealing at first, but they rarely leave a lasting impact. The rarest experiences, the ones that leave imprints, are the ones that feel just out of reach. The mind resists what it cannot fully grasp. And the second someone feels like they have you completely figured out, they stop feeling the need to try. That's why the ones who command the most attention are never the ones who explain themselves endlessly, who make sure everyone knows exactly how they feel. They are the ones who pull in, then step back, the ones who keep just enough distance to make others want to close the gap. It's discipline, knowing that not every emotion needs to be expressed, not every thought needs to be shared, not every moment needs to be given away freely. Time and energy are valuable, and when you treat them as such, people start to value them too. When you create moments that feel rare, when someone starts to wonder if they truly have you, that's when they start chasing. And once they start chasing your presence, they'll never stop fearing your absence. That's when you become the thought they can't shake, the mystery they can't solve, the shadow that stays just out of reach. That's when you become the one they can't stop thinking about.